So, over the last couple days, and frankly months, as we've been talking about 5G and future state and DC and everything else, um, I made the point that the reporting on it was really poor, that the information that we were getting and the channels were reacting to was wrong, and it was really kind of spinning this whole thing out of control. Well, whose fault is that? Is it Rich Johnson over at Bleeding Cool? Is it his fault? No, it frankly it's not. I mean, yes, in a sense that putting out false information for your own profit is dodgy and everything else. But in many cases, the information that he was putting out wasn't false. It was just highly exaggerated. It was leaping to a lot of conclusions and assumptions. And a lot of these sites and videos and channels do that, including this one. We make predictions here. I don't know who the we is. I make predictions here. But at the end of the day, when a company loses control of its marketing, whose fault is that? Yeah, it's the company's. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. You know, again, I'm sure there's some people who will disagree with this take, but I believe that, if you're a company and you're putting out a product, it's your job to market it, to promote it, to set the record straight, to make sure that, your customer base knows what you're doing and that you're putting your best foot forward. It's not anyone else's job. Now, definitely some people can harm you. For example, if Coke started running advertisements that said that, Pepsi would make your foot fall off. I edited myself there at the last second. I don't know if you heard that. I was going in a different direction, but I went with foot. So your foot falling off. If they started running ads saying Pepsi makes your foot fall off, and Pepsi did nothing, and they just like, well, no one will believe that crap. Everybody likes our drink, and then they just let it go for 2 or 3 years. They didn't sue. They didn't come out and say, hey, no, foot stays on. Your foot will function just fine drinking Pepsi, and they just were silent. Then at some point you could say, well, Coke is running some pretty deceptive advertising, but what the hell is Pepsi doing? Why are they letting somebody else kind of completely control the narrative of their company and their product? Where DC and future state and just frankly comics in general are concerned, for a long period of time the big two have allowed other people to kind of dictate their advertising and their marketing. And I've speculated in the past, a lot of this is because they never really built up the capability to do it themselves. They never really understood kind of the value of how to do it. But you have to look at it. And today, who runs DC's marketing department? It's like 60% Rich Johnston at Bleeding Cool. And it's like 40% kind of a random assortment of news sites and video channels. Like, that guy Yellow Flash? Yeah, he like runs 10% of DC's marketing. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? But it's true. If DC is not out there setting the record straight, explaining kind of here are the titles, here's who it's for, here are the creative teams, here's what we're going on about, and they just do nothing, and then these video channels with 100,000 plus subscribers pop up, and they start explaining how this is, woke Armageddon and other stuff in the comics. That's the marketing that's going out. That's what people are talking about with your product. You've got to get out there and you've got to set the record straight. And in many cases, the most aggravating part is that a lot of the stuff that's said on video channels or comic news sites or whatever it happens to be is extremely easy to disprove by the comic company just saying, nope, here's what we're doing. Here it is. Like very, very, very easy to disprove. But when they stay silent and they do nothing, or they, send out really confusing messages around their products, then they basically handed over control to their marketing. Who runs Marvel Comics marketing? Who's running the show with their marketing? You may hate this answer, or you may not. It's Richard Meyer runs most of their marketing. You're like, wait a second, that's complete nonsense. Yeah, except he's doing reviews. He's talking about what's going on in the comics. Yes, he's putting his spin on it. Yes, he's at times, in my opinion, is unfair in kind of how he rates or explains the comic. You definitely have his biases at work. However, that his fault? Everybody has a bias. Everybody puts out material in their viewpoint. That's what he's doing. Marvel, meanwhile, is counter programming by running cooking shows and just random kind of YouTube things that are very much a lifestyle. I don't think Marvel Comics is a lifestyle brand. A lot of YouTube channels say this, and a lot of people put that message out there. I think at the end of the day, Marvel Comics is a comics brand because they produce comics. However, to the point of the YouTube channels that say that, when you look at Marvel's marketing and the fact that typically speaking, if they put out 20 books in a month or in a week, let's say they put out 16 books in a week, you're lucky if they're marketing two of those. Maybe you get some kind of weird animated GIF type movie role where they kind of flash the titles up on the screen. But most of the time, they're having kind of vacuous interviews with creators. They're really saying and doing nothing, and then they're baking cookies or whatever, or they're doing this completely over the top, transparently terrible hype, where it's like, oh, this comic is going to change all of comics forever in the history of forever. Again, nobody with any intelligence would market a comic that way every single time. They would know that message burns out really, really quickly. So I say again, who runs Marvel's marketing? Yeah, it's YouTubers. It's people who are in many cases not fond of Marvel. And so they're putting out messages that are fairly negative. And the comic company is responding with how to bake Black Panther cookies. Like you, you got to admit, on some level, yeah, I wish the people wouldn't create kind of all this negative marketing, negative hype all the time, but it's not their job to market Marvel. It's Marvel's job to market Marvel. It's DC's job to market DC. And if they're doing nothing, then it's hard to complain about freaking, why is this YouTuber saying this unfair thing when the company is not responding to it? It's amazing to me how many customers, increasingly, and by the way, if you're Marvel or DC, this should concern you. A lot of customers are increasingly getting their news and their information and the feeling about what your comics are all about from Twitter and from YouTube. And in effect, from people who are not your friends, for people who are, basically they're making money by making fun of you. I mean, maybe now. Granted, some of these guys, I'm sure, are giving an honest review, and in many cases, whether even if they're clowning on the comic, they're still giving, in their mind, an honest review. But at the same time, it's filtering through a bias of one person. And Marvel could do the easiest thing in the world. DC could do the easiest thing in the world by simply marketing their comics. I mean, hell, create your own YouTube channel, secretly fund somebody. I'll take Patron. You can have, I'm not a complete sell. Well, maybe for Patron. Wait a minute, I'm moved past Patron. Who am I with now? Smirnoff. Who won the poll? I think Captain Morgan won the poll. Captain Morgan Rum, my new sponsor of the Perch Show. If you pay me in Captain Morgan, then I will happily review your comics in a no nonsense, positive way. Why not? But I'm joking, of course. But there are people out there who truly love your comics. If the kind of the angry responses I've gotten at times for things I've said about Dawn of X is any indication, you have a rabid fan base. Pick one who is not a lunatic and have them start, pay them in comics and have them start running, shows reviewing all of your comics every week. Every single comic gets reviewed and promoted. I don't know. That's a dumb idea, but Christ, it's better than teaching people how to bake cookies. That's the crazy part. The people who run your marketing at the big two, you have allowed people from the outside to take control of your marketing and basically state and describe what your company is more than you. And the tipping point gets pretty extreme pretty fast if you don't get control of it. Yes, and Marvel, there's a lot of long-term fans of your content. Absolutely. There's people who have grown up with Spider-Man, grown up with X-Men, grown up with all kinds of stuff. And they are still your friends. They're going to promote and push as much as you want. But you have an increasing number of people who get attention by clowning on you. And if you have no response to that, they become, in effect, your marketing. How many people, like, so the crazy part, if you go on social media and you talk about Captain Marvel and you just say, Captain Marvel, something, a better example is Miss Marvel. Hey, Miss Marvel's a character. Very rapidly, regardless of who you're connected to, and I have tried this experiment with brand new, fresh accounts, people will come in to want to talk about the storyline where Miss Marvel ran a prison for other kids during the Civil War II storyline. Now, this was really two comics. Maybe it was three. I think it was two. Two comics in her whole run where she went into this. And the conclusion of this story was basically that Miss Marvel idolized Captain Marvel and she went into doing something she didn't really feel comfortable with, but she did anyway and then realized it was the wrong thing to do. And, some people got hurt and all the rest. However, to a lot of casual fans, it is Miss Marvel ran a Gestapo prison for kids. Now, where did they get that impression? Well, frankly, a ton of videos like this one made that point over and over and over. And Marvel responded with, if I put the time in right now, there'd be like a picture of a tumbleweed blowing across the desert. That's what they responded with. And that's what I mean by your marketing has been taken over by someone else. And that's not their fault. That's not their problem. That's yours. That is your fault. So, reality is, who owns DC's marketing? Yeah, it's Rich Johnston. It's probably streams of Ethan Van Sciver. Like if you had the pie chart, it's a bunch of people with a very thin slice being DC itself. In Marvel, yeah, I mean it's your boy Zach is your marketing department. Congratulations, you have put so little effort and attention into your own marketing that you've allowed somebody else to basically come and do it for you. And guess what? They're not marketing to your benefit. Now, by the way, people in the comments come in and goes, yeah, Zach has said nice things about the. That's not my point. Is not whether he said a 59% mean things, 49% nice things, or whatever you want to say. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is if you're a company, you would think you would want to do the marketing yourself, not hand it over and hope that the comic you made or whatever you're doing is going to be described positively by some random person you've never met and do not pay. That's my point. I think, to lead to another example, Old Valiant on their Twitter account, basically it posts, just inane stuff that doesn't market anything. And they post which team is your favorite? And they have three pictures there. The first one is of a Valiant team, I think Unity. And then the second one is of the Justice League. And then you have the Avengers. And the painful part of that tweet is this is from the official blue check marked, Valiant account, is that one of the three pictures was saved in high resolution. The other two were blurry and, and all screwed up. Now, you might think to yourself, did they do the clever thing where their own team, the Valiant team, was the sharp one, and the DC and the Marvel images were the blurry ones? You would be wrong. No, their own comic was blurry and crappy. And the Justice League was a nice sharp picture, and the Avengers picture was also ass. What is that promoting? Who is that helping? It's certainly not helping Valiant. It makes you look like a buffoon. And you go to these videos by DC and Marvel, and you look at the hit count, the view count, compared to just random people out there. Just some guy is killing you in views compared to the company account. Why? Why is that? I have posted things, both saying this is a ridiculous panel and also promoting comics that get more likes and retweets and comments and engagement than the big two itself. That shouldn't be. That is something is wrong. So put some effort toward marketing. Good God, what are you doing? I don't know. What do you think? Am I being crazy here? Is there? Yes, I'm exaggerating slightly for the point, but not by much. Go look at the actual stats and the numbers. You will be surprised what you'll find out. It is the marketing brain power has been outsourced to random people. Way to go! But those cookies are absolutely delicious. They're the best cookies you've ever had. Anyway, hey, like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, leave a comment, all that kind of stuff. But most importantly, thanks for listening.